The emergency transmission reached Earth on a Tuesday morning, cutting through every communication channel humanity had established since achieving interstellar contact 3 years prior. Ambassador Zethkri of the Valorian Federation materialized as a flickering hologram in the United Nations Emergency Assembly Hall, his crystalline features twisted with desperation that transcended species barriers. Honored representatives of humanity, his translated voice carried the weight of civilizations on the brink of extinction. We come before you not as the advanced federation you have known, but as refugees seeking sanctuary and aid. The devourers have returned. The assembled delegates fell silent. Even those unfamiliar with galactic history recognized the terror that crept into the alien ambassador's normally composed demeanor. Secretary General Martinez leaned forward, her weathered face grave with understanding. Ambassador, please explain the situation fully. Earth stands ready to listen. Zethkri's holographic form stabilized as he gathered himself. 27 cycles ago, our ancestors believed they had defeated the Devourer swarm beyond the Void Nebula. We were wrong. They were merely sleeping, growing, evolving. 3 standard months ago, they emerged from dark space with ships the size of moons and an appetite that consumes entire star systems. The holographic display shifted, showing tactical readouts that made the human military advisors pale. Massive biomechanical constructs moved through space like living nightmares, their hulls pulsing with organic energy. Entire worlds appeared as barren rocks in their wake, stripped of all biological matter down to the microbial level. The Kethmori Empire fell in 6 days, Zethkri continued, his voice growing quieter. The Stellar Republics managed 8. The hive minds of Arcturus lasted 12 days, and they were a militaristic species bred for warfare. We calculate that the Valorian core worlds have perhaps 3 weeks before the swarm reaches our home systems. Admiral Chen, Earth's newly appointed Space Defense Coordinator, stood slowly. What exactly are you asking of us, Ambassador? Our fleet consists of 47 vessels, most of them converted exploration ships with basic defensive capabilities. Your Federation commands thousands of warships with technology centuries ahead of ours. Had, Zethkri corrected, the word falling like a death knell. We had thousands of ships. The swarm's adaptive capabilities are beyond our modeling capacity. Every weapon we deploy, every tactic we employ, they absorb and counter within hours. Our plasma cannons became useless when they developed energy-absorbing biohulls. Our quantum missiles proved ineffective when they learned to phase-shift their vital systems. The ambassador's form flickered with emotional resonance. But you humans, you fight differently. In the 3 years since first contact, our analysts have been puzzled by your approach to conflict resolution. Where we calculate optimal solutions and deploy precision instruments of war, you demonstrate what your military calls adaptive chaos. You use ancient kinetic weapons alongside quantum technology. You employ strategies that violate tactical efficiency in favor of unpredictability. Dr. Sarah Kim, the xenopsychology specialist, raised her hand. Are you suggesting our apparent technological primitiveness is actually an advantage? Precisely. Zethkri's crystalline features brightened with hope. The devourers learn by consuming and analyzing. They cannot adapt to what they cannot understand or categorize. Your species displays a cognitive flexibility that our computer models cannot predict, which means the swarm cannot anticipate your responses either. The assembly hall erupted in urgent conversations as the implications settled. Humanity, the newest and most primitive member of the galactic community, was being asked to lead a defense against a threat that had already consumed 3 major galactic powers. Secretary General Martinez called for order. Ambassador, what specific assistance are you requesting? Be precise. We ask for military advisors, unconventional tactical planning, and... Zethkri paused, his pride visibly warring with necessity. We request that humanity assume operational command of the combined refugee fleet. Our remaining forces number approximately 8,000 vessels from 7 different species, but they are paralyzed by traditional thinking. They need leadership that thinks outside established parameters. The silence stretched for long minutes. Finally, Admiral Chen spoke carefully. Our largest ship is a converted asteroid mining platform with improvised weapons. Our most advanced fighter craft were designed for scientific survey missions. You're asking us to coordinate a battle against something that destroyed civilizations with technology we can barely comprehend. Yes, Zethkri replied simply. Because everything else has failed. President Williams of the North American Federation stood, her voice carrying the authority of Earth's largest military contributor. If we agree to this, and it's a significant if, what resources are we talking about? What can the refugee fleet provide? Every surviving ship from 7 species, complete technological databases, manufacturing capabilities of 4 mobile shipyards, and the desperate determination of beings who have lost everything except the hope that humanity's chaotic brilliance might succeed where our orderly perfection has failed. The holographic display updated, showing the refugee fleet's composition. Ancient Kethmori dreadnoughts, bristling with redundant armor systems, sleek Valorian cruisers with quantum manipulation capabilities, hive-mind collective vessels that functioned as living organisms. The diversity was staggering, representing the accumulated military knowledge of civilizations that had ruled space for millennia. There's something else, Admiral Chen observed, studying the tactical displays. This swarm, it's moving in our direction anyway, isn't it? Whether we help or not, Earth is in its path. Zethkri's confirmation was barely audible. The swarm consumes everything biological in its path. There is no negotiation, no mercy, no alternative outcome. If we cannot stop them at the refugee rally point near Kepler 442, they will reach the Sol system within 18 standard months. The weight of realization settled over the assembly. This wasn't a request for assistance between allies. This was a last stand, with Earth as the ultimate target regardless of their decision. The only choice was whether to fight alongside allies or face the swarm alone when it inevitably arrived. Secretary General Martinez looked around the hall, reading the faces of humanity's representatives. Fear warred with determination. Uncertainty battled with resolve. Finally, she turned back to the holographic ambassador. Zethkri of the Valorian Federation, humanity accepts your request. We will coordinate the defense of the refugee rally point and assume operational command of the combined fleet. But understand this, we do things our way, with our methods, using our apparently chaotic approach to warfare. If you're trusting us to lead, you're trusting us to fight like humans. The alien ambassador's form brightened with what could only be described as relief. Thank you. The rally coordinates are being transmitted to your military networks now. The combined fleet will await your arrival and your chaotic leadership. As the transmission ended, Admiral Chen was already mobilizing Earth's response. Every functional spacecraft would be pressed into service. Civilian transports would be converted to supply ships. Scientific vessels would become reconnaissance platforms. The asteroid mining ships would become the backbone of an improvised battle fleet. Within 6 hours, every shipyard on Earth and Luna was working at maximum capacity. Emergency construction protocols activated assembly lines that had never been used for military production. Scientists found themselves designing weapon systems using principles that violated every conventional understanding of space combat efficiency. The message went out across all human colonies and stations. Earth was going to war, not for territory or resources, but for the survival of multiple civilizations. Every ship that could carry a weapon and move under its own power was ordered to rendezvous at the refugee rally point. As the first wave of human vessels prepared to depart, Captain Rodriguez of the converted mining ship New Frontier looked at his crew of geologists, engineers, and civilian contractors who had volunteered to become impromptu soldiers. Anyone have second thoughts about this? The refugee rally point near Kepler 442 resembled a graveyard of broken dreams when the first human vessels arrived. Massive ships from a dozen species hung in space like wounded giants, their hulls scarred by weapons that had proven utterly useless against the devourer swarm. The combined fleet stretched across millions of cubic kilometers, a testament to the military might of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Admiral Chen transferred his flag to the Valorian command ship, Crystal Harmony, a vessel so advanced that its basic life support systems surpassed anything humanity had ever built. The alien crew watched with poorly concealed skepticism as humans in patched spacesuits and jury-rigged equipment took command positions throughout the ship. "Their technology is impressive," observed Commander Yuki Tanaka, Chen's tactical advisor, as she studied the ship's quantum targeting systems. "But everything is designed for precision, efficiency, optimal performance. There's no redundancy, no room for improvisation." Fleet Admiral Kethlos, the Valorian military commander, gestured with 4 crystalline arms toward the holographic display showing the combined fleet's assets. "We have attempted every conventional approach to combat the swarm. Superior firepower failed when they adapted energy absorption. Coordinated fleet tactics proved useless when they learned to predict our movements. Defensive strategies collapsed when they demonstrated the ability to consume our shield generators." Chen studied the tactical readouts, his weathered face thoughtful. The swarm was still 6 days away, giving them time to prepare, but every piece of intelligence suggested that preparation was futile. "Show me the engagement records. Everything you have." The holographic theater filled with battle footage that made the human observers sick to their stomachs. The devourers didn't just destroy ships, they consumed them. Massive biomechanical tendrils erupted from the swarm vessels, literally digesting enemy craft while absorbing their technological capabilities. Crews that ejected in escape pods were caught and processed, their biological knowledge somehow incorporated into the swarm's collective intelligence. "They learn from every engagement," explained Dr. Vex High, the Kethmori science officer whose own homeworld had been consumed 3 weeks prior. "Their neural networks adapt within minutes of encountering new weapons or tactics. What kills them once becomes ineffective within hours." Captain Maria Santos, commanding the converted Earth cargo hauler Lucky Strike, laughed bitterly. "So they're like the galaxy's worst nightmare version of adaptive AI. Wonderful." She turned to Chen. "Admiral, with respect, what exactly is our plan here?" "Because throwing more conventional weapons at something that eats conventional weapons seems like a poor strategy." Chen was quiet for several minutes, studying the alien ships around them. Finally, he spoke to his communications officer. "Send a message to all human vessels. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Command staff only, but include our civilian specialists." The meeting took place aboard the New Frontier, Captain Rodriguez's converted mining ship, because it was the only vessel large enough to accommodate representatives from all 47 human ships. The assembled group looked like a collection of mechanics, scientists, and explorers who had accidentally wandered into a war council. "Here's what we know," Chen began without preamble. "The swarm adapts to everything logical, efficient, and predictable. Every alien species fights the same way, with coordinated tactics, optimal weapon systems, and strategic doctrine that prioritizes efficiency over effectiveness." Dr. Elena Kozlov, the theoretical physicist from Luna Station, raised her hand. "So we need to be illogical, inefficient, and unpredictable. The question is how to weaponize human stubbornness and creativity on a scale that matters against ships the size of small moons." "Actually," interrupted Chief Engineer Park from her position near the improvised weapons console, I've been thinking about that. These aliens, they build everything to work perfectly. Their ships are marvels of engineering, but they're also completely standardized. Every Valorian cruiser is identical. Every Keth Mori dreadnought follows the same design principles. Captain Williams of the Earth Survey ship. Deep Explorer. Caught on immediately. But every human ship is different. We've got mining equipment converted to weapons, scientific sensors jury-rigged for targeting, civilian transports carrying military supplies. There's no standard configuration because we built everything from whatever we had available. More than that, added Commander Tanaka, her eyes bright with possibility. Human tactics have always been about adaptation and improvisation. We don't follow optimal strategies. We make them up as we go along. We use weapons in ways they were never designed for. We combine systems that shouldn't work together but somehow do. Chen nodded slowly. The aliens are asking us to command their fleet because they think our chaotic approach might work, but we're thinking too small. We shouldn't just command their ships. We should make their ships more like ours. The implications hit the assembled officers like a physical blow. They were talking about deliberately sabotaging the most advanced military hardware in the galaxy, reducing precise instruments of war to the same jury-rigged, improvised systems that characterized human engineering. "That's insane," breathed Captain Foster of the Titan's Dream, a converted research vessel. "These ships represent millions of years of technological development. We're talking about turning quantum cannons into glorified shotguns." "Exactly," Chen replied. "The swarm can adapt to quantum cannons because they understand the physics. But how do you adapt to a quantum cannon that's been rewired by a human engineer with a welding torch and no respect for manufacturer specifications?" Dr. Kozlov was already running calculations on her tablet. "If we introduce enough random variables into their systems, create enough unpredictable interactions between incompatible technologies, we might actually achieve sustained tactical surprise. The swarm's adaptation algorithms would be constantly trying to analyze systems that don't follow any logical design principles. Plus," added Chief Park with a grin that would have terrified the alien engineers, "we've got 47 different approaches to jury rigging represented in this fleet. Every human ship has solved problems in completely different ways. If we apply those same principles to alien technology, we create a fleet where no two ships operate the same way, even if they started with identical designs," Chen finished. "The swarm encounters the crystal harmony with human modifications, learns to counter it, then faces another Valorian cruiser that we've modified completely differently." The room fell silent as the audacity of the plan sank in. They were proposing to take the most sophisticated military technology in known space and deliberately make it less efficient, less predictable, and more chaotic. By every measure of military science, it was tactical suicide. "There's one problem," Captain Rodriguez pointed out. "The alien crews. They've spent their entire careers learning to operate these systems at peak efficiency. Asking them to embrace deliberate inefficiency goes against everything they've been trained to believe." "Then we don't ask them," Chen replied. "We demonstrate. Every human ship gets paired with an alien vessel. Our crews work with their crews to modify systems using human engineering principles. We show them that sometimes the wrong way to do something is exactly the right approach." Over the next 5 days, the refugee fleet became a laboratory of controlled chaos. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to introduce deliberate flaws into perfect systems. Valorian quantum manipulators were rewired with human backup circuits that violated basic energy conservation principles, but somehow worked anyway. Kethmori plasma cannons received improvised cooling systems made from asteroid mining equipment that actually improved their sustained fire rate. Hive-mind bioships were fitted with human computer systems that created strange feedback loops between organic and digital intelligence. The alien crews were horrified, fascinated, and gradually convinced as they watched their newly chaotic vessels perform in ways that their original designers had never imagined. A Valorian cruiser with human modifications could now fire its main weapons while simultaneously launching fighters and charging its shields, something that had been theoretically impossible due to power distribution limitations. "It works," Admiral Kethlos admitted to Chen on the eve of battle, his crystalline features reflecting bewilderment and hope in equal measure. "I don't understand how it works, but it works. Our tactical computers can't predict the performance characteristics of our own ships anymore." "That's the point," Chen replied, watching as the last human modifications were installed across the fleet. "If our own computers can't predict what we're going to do, then the swarm's adaptation algorithms don't have a chance." The Devourer swarm emerged from hyperspace exactly when predicted, a living nightmare of biomechanical horror that had consumed entire civilizations. Their ships pulsed with organic energy, tentacles writhing in space as they sought new technologies to absorb and new biological matter to process. But for the first time in their existence, they faced an enemy that made no sense. The refugee fleet's response was a symphony of organized chaos that violated every principle of conventional space warfare. Ships that should have been destroyed by their own modifications instead performed impossible maneuvers. Weapons that had been jury-rigged beyond recognition unleashed effects that the swarm's sensors couldn't categorize. "All ships," Chen broadcast to the combined fleet as the battle began, "remember what we practiced. No coordination, no standardized tactics, no predictable responses. Fight like humans. Fight like every ship is the only ship in the galaxy, and make it up as you go along." The first exchange of fire lit up space like a festival of destruction, and for the first time since the Devourer War began, the swarm's perfect adaptation algorithms encountered something they couldn't process: the beautiful impossibility of human improvisation applied to alien technology. The battle raged for 18 hours straight, and for the first time in the Devourer War, the swarm was losing. The biomechanical nightmares that had consumed 3 galactic civilizations found themselves facing an enemy that defied every law of tactical analysis. Each time their adaptation algorithms began to process a threat pattern, the human-modified ships would shift to completely different operational parameters. Captain Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the New Frontier as his converted mining ship's improvised weapons tore through a Devourer vessel the size of a city. The aliens had originally designed quantum disruption torpedoes for precise targeting of enemy shield generators. Rodriguez's engineering team had rewired them to detonate randomly along their flight path, creating unpredictable energy cascades that the swarm couldn't anticipate. "Target destroyed," reported Chief Park with satisfaction. "And I still don't understand how those torpedoes actually work anymore. The detonation sequence violates at least 6 fundamental laws of physics." "Good," Rodriguez replied, selecting another target. "If we don't understand it, they sure as hell can't adapt to it." Across the battle space, similar scenes played out as the refugee fleet employed tactics that would have been court-martial offenses under normal circumstances. The Valorian cruiser, Stellar Pride, now fitted with human modifications, was using its main engines as weapons, channeling drive plasma through jury-rigged conduits to create a continuous beam that carved through enemy formations. The maneuver was slowly destroying the ship's own propulsion systems, but it was also eliminating Devourer vessels faster than they could regenerate. Admiral Chen monitored the chaos from the command center of the Crystal Harmony, watching as his tactical displays struggled to track friendly ships that no longer operated according to their original specifications. The alien crew around him worked with desperate efficiency, but he could see the wonder in their crystalline features as they witnessed human improvisation in action. "Admiral?" called Commander Tanaka from her position at the modified weapons console. The Keth-Mori Dreadnought Iron Will is reporting a problem with their jury-rigged plasma systems. They're asking for instructions on how to proceed. Chen smiled grimly. Tell them to fix it however they think will work best, then do something completely different. The important thing is that they don't follow standard repair procedures. On the Iron Will, Captain Vorthak of the Keth-Mori Empire found himself experiencing emotions his species rarely acknowledged: excitement and creative joy. His crew had spent the last hour implementing what the humans called emergency modifications to their primary weapon systems, using welding equipment and spare parts to create configurations that violated every principle of Keth-Mori engineering doctrine. "Captain," his weapons officer reported, "the human modifications have increased our rate of fire by 30%, but the targeting system is now completely unpredictable. We can't determine where our shots will land until after we fire." "Excellent," Vorthak replied, surprising himself with his enthusiasm. "Target the largest concentration of enemy vessels and let chaos decide the rest." The Keth-Mori plasma barrage that followed resembled a storm of superheated energy more than precision gunfire. Shots ricocheted off asteroid debris, split into multiple beams due to field interactions, and somehow managed to hit targets that weren't even in the original firing solution. 3 Devourer ships died in ways that their tactical computers couldn't classify. But the swarm was learning, even from chaos. Their biomechanical hulls began developing random variations, attempting to counter unpredictability with their own adaptive randomness. New weapon configurations emerged from their organic production centers, systems designed to function effectively regardless of their specific parameters. Dr. Elena Kozlov, monitoring the battle from her position aboard the Lucky Strike, noticed the shift immediately. "Admiral, the swarm is adapting to our chaotic approach. They're developing random response protocols." Chen nodded grimly. "Expected. But they're making one fundamental mistake. They think chaos is just randomness. Time to show them the difference. All human vessels," he broadcast on the command frequency, "implement Protocol Omega. Repeat, implement Protocol Omega." Protocol Omega hadn't existed until that moment. Chen was making it up as he spoke, which was exactly the point. Across the fleet, human crews interpreted the non-existent protocol according to their own understanding and experience. The result was a coordinated assault that followed no tactical doctrine because it was being invented in real time by 47 different command teams. The new frontier combined its mining lasers with the quantum torpedoes from a destroyed Valorian escort, creating a weapon system that existed nowhere in any technical manual. The Deep Explorer used its scientific sensors to hijack the targeting systems of nearby enemy vessels, turning their own weapons against their neighbors. The Titan's Dream employed its research equipment to create localized gravitational anomalies that crushed Devourer ships like tin cans. "This is insane," Admiral Kethlos observed, as his own ship's modified systems performed maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. "The energy requirements alone should have overloaded our power grid 5 times over." "Human engineering," explained Chief Park, who had transferred to the Crystal Harmony to oversee the final modifications. "We don't worry about theoretical limitations. We just build redundant systems until something works, then add more redundancy until it works better." The turning point came when Captain Santos of the Lucky Strike developed what the crew immediately dubbed the Cascade Protocol. Using her cargo ship's original purpose as inspiration, she began collecting debris from destroyed Devourer vessels and launching it back at the swarm using modified magnetic accelerators. "They adapt to energy weapons and projectile weapons," Santos explained over the command channel as she watched enemy ships tear themselves apart with their own technology. "But they can't adapt to weapons made from pieces of their own ships. because their adaptation algorithms can't process attacks from systems they've already consumed and integrated. The idea spread through the human fleet like wildfire, each ship implementing the concept according to its own capabilities and equipment. Soon, the battle space was filled with improvised projectiles, chunks of biomechanical hull launched by mining equipment, pieces of organic computing systems accelerated to relativistic speeds by survey ship propulsion systems, fragments of alien weapons turned into kinetic ammunition by cargo handling equipment. The swarm's adaptation algorithms, evolved over millions of years to process and counter technological threats, found themselves trying to defend against weapons that consisted entirely of their own previously consumed technology. The feedback loops created by this paradox began causing cascading failures throughout their fleet structure. "They're retreating," reported Commander Tanaka with amazement. "The entire swarm is pulling back toward the system's edge." But Chen wasn't finished. "All ships, pursue and harass. Don't let them reorganize. Keep hitting them with whatever you can improvise in the next 30 seconds. The pursuit that followed became legendary among the refugee fleet. Human crews continued to invent new weapons and tactics even as they chased the retreating swarm, turning the rout into a master class in adaptive warfare. The converted research ship, Quantum Dawn, used its particle accelerator to create localized wormholes that deposited mines directly inside enemy hulls. The mining vessel, Rock Crusher, employed its ore processing equipment to literally digest captured enemy fighters and convert them into ammunition. When the swarm finally escaped into hyperspace 6 hours later, they left behind the wreckage of more than 60% of their fleet and the first tactical defeat in their species' existence. The aftermath found the combined refugee fleet holding position in what had become known as the Kepler Graveyard, surrounded by the debris of the greatest space battle in galactic history. Human crews worked alongside their alien counterparts to repair systems that no longer resembled their original configurations, creating new hybrid technologies that combined the best of multiple civilizations with the creative chaos of human engineering. "The swarm will return," Admiral Kethlo stated during the post-battle conference. "They have learned from this engagement and they will adapt their approach." "Good," Chen replied, watching as his crews continued to modify their ships in preparation for the next battle. "Because so will we. And the one thing humans excel at is learning faster than anyone thinks we should be able to." Dr. Kozlov, her uniform stained with lubricant from helping with emergency repairs, looked up from her tactical analysis. "Admiral, I've been running projections on our performance metrics, according to every model I can construct. What we accomplished today was mathematically impossible." "Welcome to human space combat doctrine," Chen said with a grin. "We specialize in impossible victories." 3 months later, when the swarm returned with new ships and adaptive countermeasures designed to handle chaotic warfare, they found themselves facing an even more impossible enemy. The refugee fleet had grown as survivors from other battles joined the human-led coalition. More importantly, the alien crews had learned to think like humans, embracing improvisation and creative destruction as core tactical principles. The second battle lasted 3 days and ended with the complete destruction of the Devourer swarm's primary fleet. The survivors fled not into hyperspace, but into the intergalactic void, abandoning the galaxy entirely rather than face an enemy that grew stronger through apparent weakness. In the years that followed, the human approach to warfare revolutionized galactic military doctrine. The chaos principles developed at Kepler 442 became required study at alien military academies, though few non-human species ever truly mastered the art of productive inefficiency. Earth's space fleet, expanded with technology and ships gifted by grateful alien civilizations, became the backbone of a new galactic defense network. But more importantly, humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson about the power of creative thinking and adaptive problem-solving that would echo through the stars for generations to come. When asked about the victory years later, Admiral Chen would always give the same answer. We didn't win because we were better than the swarm. We won because we were too stupid to know we were supposed to lose. Chief Engineer Park, a grandmother who had spent 40 years maintaining asteroid processing equipment, checked her improvised torpedo launch system one more time. "Skip, those aliens wouldn't have come to us if they had any other choice. If they think our craziness can win this fight, then let's show them how crazy humans can really get." The first human ships jumped to hyperspace 12 hours after receiving the alien request, carrying with them the hopes of multiple species and the determination of a young civilization that had never learned the proper way to lose a war.